Our next speaker is UX and accessibility guru Annika Valtari, and she works at Eficode, right? And she's working as a UX and accessibility lead at Eficode, right?
Yes.
And the presentation is a case story of City of Turku.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Annika Valtari from Eficode, and I work as a UX and accessibility lead. And today I was actually told to wear something light. You know why? So that there would be a sufficient contrast between me and the black background. Let that be your lesson number 1 about accessibility today. So always make sure that important targets stand out from the background. Yeah, just one very simple example about what accessibility is about. And not just talking about the case City of Turku, but also in more detail about how to actually succeed in accessibility. So how to actually design and develop services and products that can be used by everyone, not just the people who have all the abilities in the world, but also the kind of people who might be living with some kind of a disability on a daily basis, or the kind of people, any of us can have some kind of a disability at one point in our life. So, how to actually succeed in that? And as I mentioned, I work at Eficode in UX and accessibility team. This is actually a photo gallery of our team, 26 people at the moment. Maybe some of you can recognize some familiar faces in the image, since many of us have been working with UX for 10 or 20 or even 20 years or even longer. And when it comes to Finland, we are an exceptionally large and experienced team when it comes to UX and accessibility. So we have various different types of companies and organizations as our clients, and we have studied and tested hundreds of digital services. So we know quite well what the users want, whether they value, and today a little bit more about that. But if you're not familiar with accessibility, don't worry about it. I'm going to try to explain that to you first, and also try to motivate you why accessibility matters. And after that, how to succeed in accessibility. And one case example how City of Turku has succeeded in accessibility. But first of all, what is accessibility and why should we care about it? Well, if you think about typical user experience and customer experience, how do users typically experience a digital service or a product? Let's say a website. Let's imagine that I'm a team lead, and I have noticed that my team of designers and developers don't have the skills needed in accessibility, and I want a tailored training for my team. And I've heard from a colleague that Eficode has given a good accessibility training to his team, and I'm interested to find out more. What can Eficode provide me? Can I find a suitable tailored training for my team? I go to eficode.com homepage, and as a user, I first might just take a look at the page. How does it look? Does it look good to me? Is it neutral? Is something annoying me? So very typical like user first impressions. How does it look? But that doesn't help me much when I'm trying to find a training for my team. What is more important to me is that can I easily find what I'm looking for? Can I find information about the trainings? Does the homepage help me, or does the main navigation help me find the courses and trainings? Or does the search function help me to find that kind of a training that I need for my designers and developers? And of course, once I find the information, is the content easy to understand? Do I understand what the training consists of? Can I tailor it to my needs? And who to contact to find out more? And of course, in the end, did the website fulfill my need? Did I find what I was looking for, and was I able to contact someone about it? And let's just remember that this is just one touch point in the customer journey. After that, I would probably send a message to someone and expect them to give me a call and maybe have a meeting and so on. But these are like the very basics of user experience and customer experience. But let's say, what if I had some kind of a disability? How would I experience that website after that? Just a couple of facts. World Health Organization has evaluated that around 15% of people in the world live with a permanent disability. So that makes 1 billion people in the world. And there is a wide variety of different types of disabilities. They might be related to vision. For example, a person might be completely blind, so he's not able to see anything on the screen, but he relies on assistive technology, such as screen reader software that talks out loud the elements and the content on the website. Or I might have some symptoms of presbyopia, ikänäkö. Any of you familiar with that? Difficulty reading small fonts or text with poor contrast. That's very typical. That can happen after you're 35. So think about the amount of Finns who have symptoms of presbyopia. Or you might have a hearing impairment, that it might be very difficult to understand a video if it didn't have any captions. Or I might have some cognitive disabilities, difficulty concentrating or memorizing, and so on. Or physical disabilities. I might not be able to use a mouse at all. I may be using just a keyboard or some other assistive technology to be able to use a computer and a mobile device. For example, I might be using just my eyes to operate the computer or voice commands. And the people with disabilities are very lucky that there are so many assistive technologies available nowadays. But we who produce those services, we need to take all of these different disabilities into account when we design and develop those services, so that the people with disabilities can use them, so that these assistive technologies actually work. So I'm still that team lead who needs that accessibility training. What if I had poor eyesight? I found some information about accessibility. What I'm concerned about it, can I actually read the content? Is the font readable? Is the contrast between text and its background good enough? Can I actually read it? If I can't, can I adjust the view to be able to see better? For example, can I zoom all the content up to 400% when it actually looks like the mobile view on the computer screen? Or can I use my own CSS file to make the text more readable to me? And when I do that, can I still find all the features? I hope that nothing disappears when I adjust the view to be able to see better. Let's take one step even further. What if I was blind and I was using a screen reader and a keyboard only, so I didn't even have a mouse? And this is actually what a screen reader user sees on one web page. So actually it's the HTML code that the screen reader is interpreting. So what I'm concerned about is that, can I understand all the elements? They're just a simple example. The heading on the web page. There's an Eficode logo, it's an image, and it's a link. Can I understand that? And then there is the main navigation with 6 links, and a contact us button, and a search button. So I need to know what all of those elements are to be able to understand how the website works and how to use those elements. But of course, another very important thing, can I understand their content? For example, there is an element, meet some of our clients, and the clients are just presented by images on the page. For me, as a blind screen reader user, it's very important that there's also information for me available, what's in the images. So the images need an alt text that says it's Kone logo and it's a WWF logo. And I'm happy. I get the same information as some user who can actually see the images. And of course, since I'm not using the mouse at all, can I still use all the features with just using the keyboard? For example, if there are custom elements, can I just use them with the keyboard only? Just a couple of examples, what I might be experiencing as a blind user. So when we think about customer experience and user experience, we cannot forget about usability and accessibility if we want to equally serve also those many people who live with a disability on a daily basis. And it's also good to remember that actually all of us live with disabilities at some point in our life. For example, if you break your wrist, you might not be able to use a mouse in the same way as before. Or if you're taking care of a baby, you don't have 2 hands when you're doing some online shopping. It might be difficult to concentrate. So that's a cognitive disability and a physical disability, for example. So taking accessibility into account, it actually is helpful for all of us. But that's just one example about what happens if we forget about accessibility. The ClickAway Pound report of 2019 evaluated that businesses in the UK lose £17 billion by ignoring accessibility. So that's a lot of potential customers and a lot of money because those people are not able to use your service or product at all. And we lose also some other benefits, like good accessibility usually also means better user experience for all users, since usability, accessibility, user experience, they're very closely related to each other. For example, it means that the service is easy to use and the content is easy to understand. That's good for all the users, right? And once the service can be used by more people, it means less contacts to customer service. It also means better search engine optimization, since Google Crawler works in a very similar way as a screen reader software. For example, if images have alt text, it's going to be valued by Google Crawler. And another thing, your service is more compliant with new technologies and use methods. For example, your users can use voice commands to actually use your service. Just a couple of benefits. And now that maybe some of you are motivated now about accessibility, its importance. So what I'm now trying to explain to you how to actually succeed in accessibility. And first of all, you need to set the target level of accessibility that you want to reach. Is it going to be a poor level of accessibility? Meaning that some features cannot be used by some users at all. Or do you want to fulfill the legal requirements for accessibility that are already concerning many organizations now and also more organizations in the future? It basically just means that all features can be used. Is that enough? Or do you want to set the target level to good accessibility, meaning not just being able to use the features, but also that the use is fluent and pleasant, so the user experience is good. And now that I mentioned the legal requirements, just a quick note about, maybe some of you have heard about the EU Web Accessibility Directive, so saavutettavuusdirektiivi, or laki digitaalisten palvelujen tarjoamisesta. It affects websites and mobile applications, for example, of public sector and banks and insurance companies. But that's not the only legislation, since the EU Accessibility Act, esteettömyysdirektiivi, and it's the Finnish legislation for this directive will be published next month in June. And it's going to concern various products, I mean physical products and also digital services. For example, computers, smartphones, their operating systems, self-service terminals, for example, some ticket machines, AV media devices, e-books and their readers, transport services, meaning, for example, websites and mobile applications for transport companies, consumer banking services, and online trading. And more information about the Accessibility Act. If we just think about online trading, do you have any idea how many online shops there are in Finland? 2,250. And they have 3 years of time to provide accessible online shopping experiences. So it's going to require quite a lot of work from quite many organizations to now finally learn about accessibility, and only now be able to serve all users with different abilities. And now I think that many organizations in Finland are starting to think about this, how to build accessible services and products. First of all, it concerns so many different roles in the organization that it needs to be baked into strategy and culture. So the organization must have a goal. We want to provide digital services that are accessible. That's a good start point, but it doesn't make much. What you also need to do is define a process for taking accessibility into account continuously. For example, start with a roadmap. Where are we now, and where do we want to be, let's say, in a year or 2 years of time? Then find out about the current state of accessibility. You can do an accessibility audit or evaluation by accessibility specialists. Fix the issues found, and if you're not able to fix the issues, get some training for the people so that they know how to fix those issues and how to take accessibility into account now and in the future. And since none of the products and services are ever ready, it's a continuous process. Whenever there's new content, new features, you just cannot forget about accessibility. So it requires continuous monitoring of accessibility. And there are plenty of automated tools available for monitoring accessibility continuously and automatically. And also it's good to have some kind of support for those people in the organization who are producing those services. They're going to have a lot of questions about accessibility, how to do this in an accessible way. And actually all of this in this process is something that our UX and accessibility team does for a lot of our customers at the moment. Since we are experts in accessibility, we do roadmaps, audits, help in fixing those issues. We give training. We have an upcoming monitoring tool. It should be published next fall by Eficode. And we also give continuous support for our customers when it comes to accessibility and UX. And it must be remembered at every step. This is just one example. If you're developing a new service or renewing an old one, you cannot forget about accessibility at any stage. It needs to be remembered in the procurement, design, implementation, release, and maintenance. That's the only way that you can actually continuously take accessibility into account and make sure that the actual product or service is accessible. And there are also some good practices to follow. For example, user-centered design, taking into account the needs of those special user groups. Training and instructing the people who are producing those services. Using accessibility experts. If you don't have enough knowledge and skills in your own organization, use someone who has that and who can teach you. And if you have a design system, make sure that its components are accessible. That's going to save you a lot of time and money in the future. And remember to test iteratively, not just at the very end of the project. Because if you're going to find out some accessibility issues at that point, there isn't much you can do at that point. So it's good to test accessibility throughout the way. And use automated monitoring tools. You don't have to do it all by yourself. There's a lot of help available. And now to the good example, City of Turku, and how they have succeeded in accessibility. Actually, they already started a digital accessibility project in 2019 because they wanted to meet the legislative requirements for accessibility. And happily, Eficode was selected as their partner in continuous accessibility consultation. And the keys to success for the City of Turku have been, I think, that they have very good accessibility coordinators who are trying to sense in a very large organization, which groups of people need training, which projects need accessibility work, for example, accessibility audits, fixing the issues, more training, more support. And then having us as continuous accessibility partner. We have arranged over 50 trainings and workshops for different groups of people in their large organization, from top management to all the people who actually produce those digital services. We have done accessibility audits to dozens of digital services. We have written instructions and given any type of support that they have needed along the way. So whenever they have an accessibility-related question, they know who to ask. And they have also succeeded in baking accessibility as part of their processes. So they take accessibility into account from procurement to maintenance of their digital services at every stage. They have accessible document templates, design systems with accessible components, and they use automated monitoring tools. So it's a very good example of how to succeed in accessibility. And also, the key takeaways from this presentation are also presented in this case, because City of Turku has done it in such a good way. So, bake accessibility part of the processes. Use experts if you don't have enough knowledge about accessibility in your own organization. Make sure that there's somebody responsible for accessibility and coordinating it. And then use good tools that are going to help you with accessibility so that you don't have to do it manually by yourself. But that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, just feel free to ask me now or come talk to me later.
A question regarding specific assistive technologies, because we have we've had a lot of internal discussions on this topic, and it's surprisingly easy nowadays to make sure that you have like plenty of contrast and you have a nice keyboard navigation and you have responsive like zoomable layouts. And that's modern browsers actually let you do that quite easily. But our kind of a heated discussion topic has been screen readers, and we don't really have like any data on like how much screen reader usage we actually get, and currently we don't have any way to kind of even kind of see how our site or even we don't know any best practices. So what's your take on screen readers specifically, and how should we accommodate them?
Yeah, actually, we made a survey to Finnish screen reader users at Eficode a year ago, and we got very interesting feedback from screen reader users. What are the most used screen readers and browsers with them? For example, NVDA is used with Chrome and Firefox, and then VoiceOver is used with Safari, for example, and mobile screen readers, VoiceOver with Safari, and then on Android, Chrome, of course. And also our team, our UX team, we have one blind consultant, Ronja Pahaoja. She's kind of a very good expert on screen reader usage, and we can also always ask her about her experiences. But also we have just learn to use a screen reader. For example, NVDA is a free screen reader for Windows. And if you have a Mac, there's VoiceOver already installed automatically. So just one way, just learn to use the screen reader yourself, just to get a sense of it. How does it feel to just listen to, for example, just one web page? That's going to tell you quite a lot. And if you have a chance, do some user testing. You can recruit some blind users to actually use your service with a screen reader, and you can ask questions from them and ask how they actually experience the service and how they would improve it. That's always a very good way to have some expert on it to tell you how it works and what should be fixed.
Please give some hand to Annika.
Yes, thanks.